For over 15 years, Saturdays and Illegal Curve have been synonymous with one another. With insight, analysis, and interviews regarding the Winnipeg Jets, the Manitoba Moose, and all around the NHL, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
All righty, here we go. Saturday morning hiatuses for some, not for us. Hiatuses are for the lesser. We are the stronger. We welcome you this morning to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, celebrating 17 years and 3 days of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Every day is going to be an anniversary from here on out because we are vain and need all the attention that we can get. Good morning, Winnipeg. Good morning, Manitoba. For all those joining us live on our social media platforms, we say good morning, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Dave Manouk on the top right. I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Ginsburg is somewhere. I think he's still going to join us, right? He said he's going to be 5 minutes late or something, Dave?
Yeah, he'll be there.
Okay, Ginsburg will be here in a bit. We're with you for the next couple of hours, talking everything to do with the Winnipeg Jets, with the Olympics, with the NHL in general. No NHL games for the next number of weeks, but we got plenty to talk about on this Saturday morning as we delve deep into the Winnipeg Jets and all that ails them. Good morning, Mr. Manouk. Nice to see you on this Saturday morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mindell. It is good to see you as well. I'm dealing with that, whatever that cold is out there. It hit me finally, so I'm feeling it right now. But I'm persevering, and I'm
waiting it with us this morning.
Yes, I'm going to be very deep today.
Yeah, it sounds deep and sexy, that voice of yours there.
Yes.
So
Well,
people hopefully will enjoy that.
Enjoy on that podcast, folks.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully there's no coughing involved. You lose a little bit of the sexiness when you start coughing. But we'll keep it, the deep.
I got a lozenge. We're good.
Okay, he's got a lozenge, folks. He's in good shape with a lozenge. Obviously, we're in this sort of weird spot where there's this lull. There's no games. The Jets' last game before the break was a disaster against the Montreal Canadiens. We don't need to rehash it.
Or was it essentially saying this is who the team is and this is the course you're going to set?
Well, it's the white flag. It was. I mean, if there was any doubt about it, it's certainly the white flag can officially be raised and flown proudly after Wednesday's game against the Habs. The Jets are 11 points out of the last playoff spot. Their playoff chances are something like 4%. It's not even worth discussing until
I think they've got higher chances at winning the draft lottery at like 8% than they do at making the playoffs.
Right. So, clearly we can turn we can turn the page on the Winnipeg Jets as a playoff team in this point of the season. And I don't think that's going to change. Yeah. 7.1% that they'll get the first overall pick. And they are 5.5% that they're going to make the playoffs. So
is that good?
No, it's not ideally, not where they expect it to be this season. The way I want to start today, because we have the 5 games until the trade deadline. So They come back, a little less than 3 weeks from now. They come back on the 25th of February. They play out west for 3 games on the Wednesday, the Friday, and the Sunday. I think it's Anaheim, Vancouver, San Jose, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe
Vancouver's the first city.
Okay,
Vancouver's on the 25th.
San Jose. They go out there for those 3 games. Then they come home. They play 2 games, and then it's the trade deadline. The player I want to talk about is one that is a pending unrestricted free agent.
Okay.
He's been a member of the Jets just this 1 year. He came aboard with much fanfare. It hasn't worked out as everyone would have hoped. I think it's probably fair and safe to say that. The player I want to talk about is Jonathan Toews.
Okay.
And almost less so about what he has done so far this year, because what's done is done. And like I just said, he hasn't performed to the level that anybody would have hoped. I think that the layoff and the comeback was more difficult than the Jets certainly, I think, thought, probably more difficult than maybe Jonathan himself thought, but his impact on the Jets has not been commensurate with the hype, that's for sure, and commensurate with the expectations. Is that an error on the Jets' part? I'd say safe to say that, yes, it was. They should have had some insulation. They should have had a backup plan, but the litany of errors that the Jets front office made this offseason is a long laundry list, and we don't need to necessarily rehash it all the time. To you, though, Dave,
Yeah.
What becomes of Jonathan Toews between now and the trade deadline? Do you think that there is a possibility, maybe not just a possibility, because always there's a possibility? What would you predict what percentage would you put on the possibility of Jonathan Toews being dealt to a contender before the deadline at the beginning of March?
Well, it'd be weird if they traded him to a pretender. I would start with that, Drew. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it at 0%. I don't think it's high. I think it's like 20% because ultimately Jonathan Toews, the organization is going to do what he wants to do, which is, we don't know. We have no idea. We don't know if they've had that dialogue with him yet. So I think it's very low because I just don't think that they want to. I think, and to be honest with you, I think now that he's kind of done the comeback and he's starting to show a little bit better. Again, I think they miscast him. I think they also I think the planning for him, like, I mean, his planning, given what he went through in terms of the layoff, I think that was, I mean, again, it's always easier in hindsight, but for them to play him every single game, as opposed to the load management we learned in the NBA circles when they did that with, what's his name? Kawhi Leonard with the Raptors, where he would play, I don't know. I don't remember what the formula was, but he was reduced. Like this idea, like, first of all, tying his bonuses to games played kind of makes it difficult because then you look like you're screwing the player if you're not playing him in enough games. So, I mean, it's a bit of they set themselves up for a bit of failure in that regard. Sometimes GMs think that, you know, with these contracts, I mean, none makes better sense to me than Johnny Kovacevic, who Kevin Cheveldayoff thought by adding a third year, it'd be like a poison pill to send him down to waivers, because I think the third year was $1 million. And I thought, well, if you're a franchise that has oodles of money like Montreal or Toronto, is that really going to kill you to pay him, you know, $500,000 more than he might be getting if he's only an AHLer? But so they sometimes try and, like, they outthink themselves a little bit. And I think in this regard, I would have not necessarily used Toews in that regard, because I think what I would have done was, I think what I would have ended up doing is bringing Toews in, and I would have, first of all, never had him as a 2C. I just think you miscast him. And I think you would have known what he is, as we're just discussing Johnny Toews and what the kind of plan for him is with the remaining part of the season, whether we think he'll be dealt, and just kind of Johnny Toews is where we began today's show.
Dave, you're sounding a little sick. That voice it's a little hoarse.
Well, you missed it. I definitely started by telling everyone I'm definitely way more sick than I'm definitely sick, but I'm fighting through it so I can do the show. But the fact is that, yeah, so I think that but there's nothing you can do about it. What's done is done. And I would say that I think, from what it sounds like he wants to maybe come back next year. Of course, we haven't heard that from him himself. But now that he's kind of gone through it and put all the time and effort to kind of get his body back to NHL shape.
Sure.
And again, if he stays with the Jets, I don't know that he wants this to be his sort of swan song in the NHL. And so I would look at it and think, look, if you're the Winnipeg Jets and you can have Jonathan Toews as your fourth line center, win faceoffs, be there for that role, that's fine. It's when you miscast him as a second line center in the NHL. He's not that. And it's not his fault. I mean, it's not his fault, right? He's an older guy. He's took 2.5 years off. And let's be realistic also. The second line sucked. The wingers haven't been good. So it's not a function of like that's the other thing. Like, if you had, for example, Nikolai Ehlers and Cole Perfetti with Jonathan Toews, his numbers are probably very different this year, because Ehlers would have been a sufficient driver for that line. So to me, you know, obviously Velarde has come down and he's been much more successful, but I would say that, and he's made that line more successful, I should say. And so who knows if they could play that way. But I don't know. I just think, like, I don't think my percent, to answer your question, Drew, I think the chances of him being dealt, unless you want a specific number, I just think that they're low. Fair enough. I think that, to be honest with you, I think he could be back next year in a capacity that's more suitable for his role.
Okay, so there you go. So Dave is saying that you don't expect that he'll be one of the players traded come the trade deadline, and that there's a possibility of a re-signing. I'm looking at Elliot Friedman's 32 thoughts. This came out yesterday, and he says, you know, the roster freeze is underway until basically midnight on February 22nd, so right at the start of February 23rd. No trades, and while players can be put on waivers, they do not have to report to their new team until February 17th. What you can do is extensions, and there will be discussions. For example, this is, again, I'm quoting Elliot Friedman. For example, how do both the Jets and Jonathan Toews feel? Does he extend for another year? I mean, not that there's.
Yeah, I hadn't even read that yet.
Okay, well, that came out yesterday. Not that there's any, direct information in there, because there isn't. But
it may not be, but I'll be doing a post in about 10 seconds. But go on.
I'm reading tea leaves in it, though. Why does Elliott mention Jonathan Toews and the Jets specifically in this? Like, there's plenty of players around the NHL that could fit within that paragraph. Why does he start with Toews and the Jets? To me, that tells me something. That is a poker tell, if you will. Maybe I'm reading way more into it than there really is. But to me, it's a little intriguing that he talks about extensions and he starts with Toews and the Jets and the question of, what happens there, Ezzy, because these are big questions. It's a month before the trade deadline right now. We know there's only 5 games between now and the deadline. To me, Jonathan Toews he's a much more unique pending UFA than almost everybody else on the Jets roster that we expect could potentially be traded.
I disagree a little bit. I mean, Jonathan Toews, as far as I'm concerned, like, he's been a nice story and coming back to Winnipeg and everything like that. But the Jets have bigger fish to fry here, boys.
That's
I mean,
fair.
there's a lot of areas that need addressing on this Winnipeg Jets team. And to me, yeah, Dave mentions Jonathan Toews. If he's a fourth line center, maybe he comes back, right? But like, he hasn't had a great season, and he's definitely coming back making a lot less money, Dave, than he's making this year. I'll tell you that much. Like maybe a 1 year, $1.5 million deal is what Jonathan Toews is getting. As far as, the trade deadline and, what teams could be after him. Like, is there a big market for Jonathan Toews right now? I don't think that there's a lot of teams clamoring to get him, right? Like 7 goals in 55 games, or 56 games. Like, he can win faceoffs. And again, he's been a nice story, but I mean, he's clearly not a second line center, guys. I mean, we've known that for most of the year, and you've got Adam Lowry centering that second line. But to me, you've got the biggest question on this Jets team. Like, if we're looking at this macro level going into next season and what work Chevy has to do in the off season, you've got to address 2C, second line center. I think you have to look at bringing in another top 6 winger, because we've talked about it. If you're going to have Velarde on the second line, okay, well, who's playing on the top line, right? Like, are you going to go with Alex Iafallo again next year? Are you going to run it back with Alex Iafallo? So to me, there's a lot bigger areas and concerns on this team than Jonathan Toews. Like, the way I look at it is, yeah, you bring him back if he's okay in that role, guys. Like, if he's okay, he's the fourth line center. Like, there's no doubt about it, because I think what was promised or what was talked about with him was being a second line center, which we've already addressed, didn't work out. Like, it just didn't. He at 37 years old, he doesn't have the ability to be a second line center or to perform, to put up big enough numbers as a second line center. So yeah, I mean, could you re-sign Toews? Sure. I mean, but what are we talking about here? Like, you're signing him to a very minimal contract. He's not going to be getting, $6 million or whatever he's getting this year. It's going to be a lot less than that. I
would agree with you there that if you're, I don't know why there's any urgency to re-sign him. Certainly at this point. I mean, that despite what Elliott was saying in that column or in that article, I don't think there's any urgency for the Jets to re-sign him. And frankly, I'm talking to Toews and saying, hey, look, what do you want to do? And I think, Dave, you alluded to this in your comments. What do you want to do? Do you want us to look and explore the trade market so that you can go play? Right now, the fourth line center for the Colorado Avalanche is Zakhar Bardakov. With all due respect to the Bardakov family, I'm not that familiar with him. So if Colorado comes and knocks on the Jets' door and says, we could really use a Jonathan Toews as a fourth-line center to win faceoffs come playoff time, we think that in a more limited role, he's an upgrade on Zakhar Bardakov. Is Toews wanting to work with the Jets to facilitate a trade, at this point? And I know you don't necessarily know the answer to that, but if I'm the Jets, Drew,
if he really cares about the Jets, he could agree to get traded, then re-sign with them as a UFA.
He could. That's certainly always. I mean, we know how rare it is for that sort of thing to happen. I mean, it's always.
What are you giving? My question though is like, what are you getting? Like, what is a team like? Okay, you want to use Colorado? What is Colorado giving up to get Jonathan Toews? A 5th round pick, a 2027 4th rounder? Like,
You're right. You're
like,
right.
Why would like what? How big? Like what I'm saying is like, yeah, that's great. Get whatever you can for Jonathan Toews and re-sign him back. Like, I think the question becomes like, do you have other players in your system that can fulfill that role at a cheaper amount, or can you, like, all due respect to Jonathan Toews, you can find fourth line centers on the free agent market. That's something the Jets can easily find. Like, the Jets can't attract the high end free agents, right, guys? Like, you know, the Jets aren't going to be getting a Mitch Marner type of player, but fourth line center is the type of role that you can address. I'm just saying, like, when I look at, again, I think Jonathan Toews has been a nice story. I don't think it has worked out the way the Jets wanted it to work out. Like, 7 goals and 19 points, I guess, is good for a fourth liner, but the problem is you were using him in a second line capacity.
You're paying him as a second liner as well.
Well, and he was getting power play time and everything. Like, and also, yeah, you're paying him a lot of money for a guy that's on the fourth line right now. So, like, if we're gonna have a big conversation about, you know,
Did I freeze or did Ezzy freeze? I think, Dave, can you hear me?
No, Ezzy froze for a second.
Okay.
But the problem with this format is I'm never sure as to who's frozen as. So I'm like, did I just freeze? Is
that happened? I don't know if I'm back or if I'm still
You're
frozen.
back. We can hear you.
Okay, good.
But what happened when it was just Dave and I the other week is I thought Dave froze and it was actually me that froze, right? So, like, I was watching the replay and it was like I looked kind of like an idiot, but I'm used to that. But no, I mean, going back to, you know, Jonathan Toews, like, I just think, you know, you have to seriously ask yourself, like, is he the guy that we want as the fourth line center next year, and can we get him at a decent price? If that's the question, then yeah, bring him back.
You know, I'd be surprised if he'd come back. I mean, I guess it all depends on how badly he wants to keep playing. Because to your point, he's not coming back at getting anywhere near the amount of money that he got this offseason. I mean, you know, allegedly there were teams that were interested in him, which is what drove up the price of his return. Now, again, you know, whatever. It's not our money. It's Mark Chipman's money. It's David Thompson's money. The Jets had the salary.
True. I wish it was my money.
Yeah, exactly. The Jets had the salary cap space. It didn't work out. We all know that. You know, that's, you know, obviously that's something that they can discuss with Kevin Cheveldayoff accordingly. To me, though, it's, you know, what happened, you know, can the Jets drive up a market for him as that, you know, guy who's going to come out and win you a face-off when you need it in the playoffs, a key guy to that extent, a guy. I wonder, you know, if he goes and plays on a more talented team, you know, where lesser is asked of him, does he all of a sudden maybe find more value? Does he become more of an impactful player on a better hockey team than he has on this Jets team that has struggled this year? And I think that there's a possibility of that happening. I mean, if you're the Jets, I do think you have to see what the market can bear for him in a trade. It might be an uncomfortable conversation, but frankly, I think Jonathan Toews is more interested in playing for another Stanley Cup than necessarily playing out the final 20 some odd games just because he's in Winnipeg. I don't know that he is that interested in, you know, a lost season. He had a number of lost seasons at the end of his career in Chicago, and he certainly didn't look like a happy camper in those years when the Blackhawks sucked and they were just playing out the string, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have an answer as to what the Jets are planning on doing. I agree with you, Drew, that the Friedman comment is curious, and the fact that you mentioned Toews. But again, like I said, that's not one that's surprising because as he went through all the hard work to get back to playing and being an everyday NHLer. And look, part of the thing that was going to be extra challenging for Jonathan Toews, it was challenging for us and the fans and for everybody else, is just how condensed this season was going to be, right? So it's not like he's playing 4 games a week, which could be seen as a lot. There's 5 games sometimes in a week, right? They're playing 26 games in the final 51 days of the season. So it's asking
they're all dealing with that.
But they're not every guy is coming back after having not played for 2.5 years as he. So I mean, I think that you can talk about conditioning and say, well, it's easy for a guy to jump in and play, you know, an extra game a week, and you're like, okay, fine, you're well conditioned.
Yeah, but so what are we supposed to do? We're like in a game, players on the opposing team are going to be like, well, Jonathan Toews. You know,
no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm suggesting that it's unrealistic to say that wouldn't have had an impact on the player coming back into this season. I'm saying it'd be easier for him to have come back next year, where it is a more normally scheduled season. So
yeah, but
that's all.
If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle, Dave. Like, I mean, he did come back this season,
right?
So
but we're talking about the impact.
About?
Well, I think what I'm trying to say is that he had that it had an impact, I think, on his play this year. So I just think that, again, I'm not here to defend Jonathan Toews. I'm just telling you what my opinion is based on watching him every game. So I just think that you've got a guy who probably, as he said, could he be your fourth? I mean, again, you're going to pay him next year. The Jets made a miscalculation. I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that assessment this summer when they thought that they got him.
You're paying a guy what, $5.5 to $6 million a year for 7 goals in 56 games.
Yeah,
well, let me ask you guys.
The funny part is, just to be clear, I'm not suggesting somehow that it's good value for you. I just think I can restate it if you want me to be clear. I think the Jets made a miscalculation. I mean, Arniel said it in the thing when Jonathan Toews was like, I can be your fourth. This is a private conversation they had that Arniel relayed, but he basically was like, I'm happy to start as your fourth line center. And then Arniel was basically like, no, you're going to be like, you're not a fourth line center. So like, again, they started with this misconception. I mean, think about it. They hadn't even watched him skate. They had reports of what his skating looked like at the University of Arizona. So I think that there was it was poor decision making by the organization for sure.
Well, do you remember back when it was officially announced that Toews was going to return to the NHL, or that he had his sights set on returning to the NHL, and then Darren Dreger, in a tweet was talking about how he's coming back as a second line center. That's where the Jets are planning on using him. That's where the Jets see him as, and it was very much that Dreger was carrying water for the organization in their thought process of using him as a second line center. Which again, we all this is the tweet. I brought it here, May 29th, 2025. Jonathan Toews will have a long list of clubs with interest. The Jets will be front and center when the time is right. Could be a great fit. And then he follows up later with, Winnipeg worked hard to acquire Brock Nelson at the deadline. In the end, Nelson chose a deal to Colorado. Jonathan Toews would slot in well with the Jets at 2C. That's back in May 29th of 2025. And the responses to that are immediately people saying, this is nonsense. He can't be a second line center. The only people who thought that he would be a second line center appear to be the Winnipeg Jets organization, and then the water carriers who were doing the heavy lifting for him. I mean, it's amazing.
Drew, I just want to interject at one point. Ezzy, would you not agree? That probably would have worked, because in May they still had Nikolai. Oh no, they didn't have Nikolai Ehlers under contract. Sorry, forget that noise.
Well, he was about to be a pending. He was they were done.
Sorry, he actually technically, that's right.
Yeah, he was under contract, but I mean, all of the immediate responses to it, like the responses to the I mean, this is back in May, are people like, this doesn't make sense. You can't step back in the NHL immediately upon, after years off and getting older, and come in as a second line center. The Jets badly made that mistake. There's no question about it. They erred in their miscalculation as to what the impact is. The question I have for you now, though. Now, let's fast forward to next year. He's got a year under his belt of games, a year of, playing your way into game shape.
2015 Jonathan Toews is not coming back.
I know he's not, Ezzy. I'm not stupid. I know very well that he's not coming back at that point.
So he's a fourth line center next year. What more is there to talk about?
Okay, well, I mean, I'm just saying, from the Jets' perspective, they have all these questions that they need answers for between now and arguably the trade deadline and the start of next year. And I would argue that Jonathan Toews, is one of those significant questions that you have to try and figure out. I appreciate your sentiment and your thoughts. To me, that's not a big issue for the Jets. You're talking about a fourth line center. That's not like those, all due respect, those are guys that you can bring up from the AHL, or those are guys that you can get on the free agent market for 1 year, $1 million. Like you get a Cole Koepke, who's a winger. You get him for a year for $1 million. Like the Jets need a second line center, and they need a top 6 winger. Like they need an upgrade in their top 6 forwards. There's also the question of your bottom pairing defenseman, right? Like next year you expect Salamonson to be a full-time NHLer. So like, is he your third pairing guy? And then Pionk and DeMello are your top pairing guys. Like Logan Stanley, to me, is a much bigger pressing concern. Like that's my opinion, Drew. You're asking for it. And I'm saying, like, my answer has been, okay, if you want to bring Toews back, bring him back, but bring him back on a 1 year, $1 million, maybe plus bonuses type of contract. And then that's it. And then, okay, be your fourth line center. But like, let's not have these delusions of grandeur that he's going to be your second line center.
That was a huge mistake. One of the biggest reasons why the Jets have struggled this year is because they don't have a second line center. Right? Like, so that to me is what is Chevy going to do to address this? That to me is, again, Dave is right. We've been talking about this since Brian Little, the Brian Little days back in 2018, when the Jets had to go out and acquire Paul Stastny. Like, the Jets, what have we been talking about all year? There's no secondary scoring.
Well, my fear is, to your point about I agree. We all three of us are in agreement that the Jets need to find second line center. My fear is that Kevin Cheveldayoff and the Jets management might still look at Jonathan Toews, despite the performance this year. They might chalk it up to him saying, well, he needed a year under his belt to get back into NHL game shape.
Okay, so can I stop you there for a second, though, Drew?
Sure.
That, to me, is, again, a colossal mistake by the Jets organization. To think that he needs a half of a season to get going.
I agree, but I'm not convinced that they won't.
What other players would you say, well, we're going to put him as second line center. It might take him 30 or 40 games to get going, but once those 30 or 40, well, the Jets lost 11 games in a row and were way behind the playoff pack, right? Before Toews started playing well. So to me, that thought, when people say, well, you got to give Toews the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he was injured for 2 years and he needed a half of a season to get going. Well, in that half of a season, he was terrible and was one of the reasons why the Jets struggled.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I agree with you. I'm not convinced, though, given the loyalty that this organization, holds so near and dear. I'm not convinced that they won't try and run it back again, thinking a year's worth of experience back on the ice might be the solution to what ails them. And now we're going to play him with a healthy Perfetti for 82 games. And now Velarde, because we know Velarde and Perfetti have some chemistry. I'm not convinced that they won't try and redo this again rather than seeing how they can acquire a second line center another way.
I will just end it like this, and then I know we're going to go to a break. But I think Ezzy's 100% right. While this is an interesting discussion, ultimately, if the Jets organization doesn't figure out how they're going to acquire a second line center and a top six winger, then we're just going to be having the same conversation about the Jets next year.
Yeah. But I mean, they haven't been able to successfully acquire a second line center in how many years? So it's not out of the realm of possibility that we continue to have this conversation. That's the problem.
But remember, Drew, and I'll end it here, then we can go to break. But just remember this: the Jets have a greater chance at selecting first overall as they do in making the playoffs. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because shout out to our boy Frank Saravalli, who's got a new website. It's called 247. Sorry, pardon me. Let me get it right. Hockey247.com, and he has the lottery odds. The Winnipeg Jets right now have the 5th best odds at the first overall pick at 8.5%.
Yeah, well, guess what? That's not very good. It's not a position you want to be in, but that's where the Jets find themselves as we sit here during the
based on this draft, Drew, I think you would actually want to be there this year.
Fair enough, Dave. That's a separate issue entirely. When we come back, Christian Aumell from 680 CJOB joins us for more Jets talk. Saturday morning, Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg. It's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show presented by Play Now. Don't go anywhere.
I want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Center. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Center.
Boys, I've made an important life decision, and I need your support.
Oh, boy.
I've decided to get a grill.
You mean a barbecue grill for cooking? Like, that's not an important life decision, Ezzy.
No. A grill for my teeth.
A grill for your teeth? Do I even want to know why you're doing this?
It's simple, really. Every time I go to Holt Dental, I get treated so very well by Dr. John and his team that I need to keep finding additional reasons to go back. I rely on Holt Dental for all of my dental needs, and they do it all, from regular cleanings to cosmetic dentistry. Plus, they have free parking at their front door, and you know how much I love my convenient parking.
For all your dental needs, Illegal Curve recommends Holt Dental, conveniently located on Taylor Avenue near Grant Park Mall. For more information, visit them online at holtdental.ca.
For over 40 years, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has been Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy. Renowned in the comedy world as a must-play venue, Rumors has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers, wedding socials, and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase show tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
This January, it's Pasta Tuesday every day at Boston Pizza. Our pastas start at just $11.99 all month long. Create your own or go gourmet for a little extra. Plus, the deal continues every Tuesday all year. Hungry for saucy savings? Hungry for BP.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. Saturday morning, we're talking about the Jets. We'll touch on the Olympics. We'll touch on the NHL in general all throughout the next 90 minutes. But we welcome to the program from 680 CJOB. Our good friend Christian Aumell joins us sporting the, is that a new Team Canada jersey? What is that?
It is not. It is from, I think, the last Olympics or something. It's a few years old. But yeah,
looking sharp, Christian.
Who is it though? Who is the jersey of? You've got. Oh, here's hint number 1.
The captain is
here's hint number 2.
I'm stumped. Number 29. I think it's Draisaitl, right? Ah, there you go, Marie-Philippe Poulin.
Yes,
very nice.
Love it.
It's now here's a fun fact. When I bought it online years ago.
Yes.
I did not consider that buying a woman's jersey would mean that it's in a woman's size. So I bought an XL. It still fits, but the torso is really long and the arms are a little short and it kind of pinches weird in the shoulder because it's a women's jersey and I am 6'5" and a man. So it's a woman's fit. And since it's Fanatics, of course, one of the numbers looks kind of funky and isn't quite perfect. Because
I wouldn't feel bad about it. Christian Drew wears women's clothes all the time, so.
That's his prerogative. That's fine. I don't kink shame.
No judgment in this place, and in this, it's a safe space here at the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Christian, welcome to the program. After that, an interesting digression. We were obviously talking about the Jets. We're talking about the upcoming trade deadline. All the questions that are swirling around this team as they sit in a position they're not used to, down towards the bottom of the NHL. Let me ask you this: what is the priority for the Jets after they come back from the Olympic break and let's say before the trade deadline? Is it keeping as many guys healthy as possible to ship them out, or what's priority for the 5 games after they come back and before the deadline hits?
I don't know if you can change the value of any players at this point. I think everyone is who they are. I don't think, you play Nyquist for 5 games to see if you can juice his value a little bit. I think we know what he is. He is a 36-year-old who hasn't scored all year, coming off a season where his numbers crashed off a cliff. So it went off a cliff and then somehow found another cliff to go off. Those 5 games, I don't know if there's really anything that can be gleaned from them. I think it's not so much the games themselves as just the duration of time between the end of the freeze and the trade deadline, where I'm interested just to see the dynamics in the NHL as a whole and what moves were made, right? Because I was wondering if this trade freeze would be some kind of like soft first trade deadline. Really wasn't. It was just Panarin wanting to go to LA. Like that's the only thing that happened, really. And Bukestad gets traded. That trade didn't really matter much. So I don't know if there's really a priority for those games as much as it's just, all right, Kevin Cheveldayoff's got a few weeks here to consider, just think about life and the future of this team and a lot of things that I'm sure he was thinking about before, because you have to in his position, but they're just a team that's in a really I feel like they could be at a crossroads here, right? And what they do in those 5 games is something that could dramatically impact the future of this franchise because they need to sell. I hope they recognize that they need to sell. I just don't know what they're going to get for the things they want to sell and if that dramatically helps them going forward, because they'll end up getting some. The way I look at it is mid-round picks, probably for a lot of these guys.
That's what I was going to ask you. Of all, let's assume that there's nothing unexpected. That the guys who are potentially traded, there's not somebody coming out of left field. There's not a curveball coming about somebody who's got significant term left on their deal or anything along those lines. What's the highest value you think you can get for any of these guys? And or is it? Can you squeeze a first-round pick for any of these guys?
Well, see, this is an interesting thing for Chevy, right? Does he want to make a huge splash, right? If he was Kelly McCrimmon in this situation, we know what he'd do, right? He'd do something, he'd be no one's off the table, right? It feels like a lot of people probably are off the table, and maybe we could talk about that later, but you look at Shen, like we all agree, I think Shen is totally gone. They're not getting a second and a fourth for him, like they gave up for him. Absolutely not. You wonder if you can squeeze like a third out of somebody for him and try to sell them on the same things they were sold on, like toughness and grit and experience and whatever, and ignore the fact that his defensive metrics are really bad. Logan Stanley's the big one literally big, but how much are teams going to look at his PDO bender and ignore the defensive metrics too, and how much of his metrics brought down by Luke Shen? I think like last year with Colin Miller in a sheltered third pair, they put up really good numbers. But this year with Shen, it has been that case. There's always the interesting pressure of the deadline when you get down to the nitty gritty. Who's going to blink, right? Is it Chevy in the selling position going to just accept a lesser deal, or is somebody going to give up more because like, okay, we got to get this guy? And so I think Stanley, there's the only one I could see getting anywhere close to a first, unless it's somebody we're not expecting. Nyquist, you could put him on waivers and he goes unclaimed, I think. Honestly, I don't know what value he has. Pearson, you could probably pick up like a fourth maybe for him. I think in terms of other guys, would they think about a Nemesnikov or a Niederreiter or a Toews? What's his future hold? Though at least Niederreiter and Nemesnikov have a year left, I think. Or
that's right.
So there's that might actually
increase their value.
It could, or it could decrease because some teams just want like an expiring contract and they don't have to worry about it in the summer. Some teams like rentals. Some teams would rather have the extra year. I personally would be trying to shop Niederreiter and Nemesnikov on top of the names I've already mentioned. I haven't liked what I've seen from them this year. But again, you'd be selling low on them as well. And the big thing for Chevy is, are any of these players that are in their 30s, and there's a lot of them on this team, going to help you win a cup next year? Right? Because this team still views itself as in that window with Scheifele and Connor and Morrissey and Lowry and Hellebuck all getting older. And if we see the results of Nemesnikov and Niederreiter, recognize, okay, maybe that's just who they are now. That's probably not. You could probably do better than that to try and win a Stanley Cup. You're trying to create roster spots for the stretch drive to find out, okay, can Lambert, can Chibrikov, Yager, I don't know who you want to put in there. Can they be a part of our future to, be faster and heck, even cheaper on ELCs, right? To create more cap space that you'd be able to go out and get a guy, or you take all these draft picks you're accumulating by trading these guys out, you package them up, you maybe toss in a prospect or something to, I don't know who's available, but get a guy in the offseason with some salary you can take on. They have cap space to maybe get this team closer to where they want to be.
Christian, I want to take you back 3 nights. Jets Canadians post-game press conference. You asked a question that generated an interesting response from Jets head coach Scott Arniel, and also generated a lot of, I would say, out-of-market media attention. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you how surprised you were by Scott Arniel's question, because I think some people were saying, well, what is Scott Arniel supposed to say? But his answer, at least to me, was a little bit more edgy than maybe you would have originally thought his answer would be.
Yeah, I asked it because I've in the games they play against Toronto and Montreal, I'm always curious. I'm always blown away by the atmosphere and how many road fans there are, right? That's not a new thing in this market. It just felt like more this time around. And maybe it's just because the Habs were up 5-1 and they felt louder because the Jets fans had nothing to cheer about for like the last 55 minutes of the hockey game. But I just like, let me ask him. It's weird, right? And he's like, that was really disappointing. And I thought, oh, well, I was kind of stunned. None of us had a follow-up. And then that was it for the press conference. And, as you think about it, I totally understand where he's coming from because, it's a home game, right? You want all the fans to be your fans. But you're also near the bottom of the standings. You haven't given your fans a lot to cheer about. Hockey games are expensive. And if they want to make a few $100 by selling their tickets to Habs fans, I do not begrudge them one bit about that. And what's most disappointing, I'm sure fans would come back and argue, and I think if you read some of the comments online about it, you would see this too. They're just disappointed with the team. That's more disappointing than the fans not maybe being at like 70-30 Jets, and it was almost more 50-50. Yeah, that's disappointing. I'm sure it is, but like that's not on the fans. That's not that maybe is a wake-up call for the team. It's like, hey, look at all these road fans. This is because your team has not been what it needs to be this year. And even if the team was a President's Trophy team, there still would have been a ton of Habs fans in that game. Like, they travel super well. They're an Original Six franchise. There was a long stretch of time in this market where there was no Jets. So someone else had to be watched or cheered for. And so the Habs are a big team in that regard too. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. And I don't think it goes so far as to say it's tone deaf from Arneal. It's just definitely like, oh, okay, that's... he's bothered by his team's performance, and he took it out a little bit there on the fans, but he's allowed to think what he thinks, and we're allowed to criticize what he says.
Christian, going back to your previous answer to Drew, I do have a question in terms of opportunity, because if it wasn't for the injuries to Colin Miller and Hayden Fleury and Neil Pionk, Elias Salamonson would still be down with the Manitoba Moose, and you wouldn't have gotten a chance to see him play in a dozen games and probably another 20 before the season ends. So they're going to get a really strong evaluation. They're going to know what kind of player they have at the NHL level. How important do you think it is for this Jets team for next year to have those guys you mentioned, the Zhilkin, the Lambert, the Chibrikov, play those remaining 20 games so there's how many games are there left right now, guys? 26 games. Yeah. And 5 games for the deadline. So there's 20 games essentially for those guys to play. How important is that organizationally to be able to say, listen, now we get a chance to evaluate these guys for 20 games against NHL talent going into next season. We can now make informed decisions saying this is what this guy looks like at the NHL level, not this is what he projects to look like at the NHL level.
I think it's vital that this happens, right? I think it's imperative that these young guys get an opportunity and a real opportunity, right? What we saw at the start of the season with Lambert, Chibrikov, and Ford kind of rotating in, they were playing 8-9 minutes a game. Ford in a fourth line role, like that's where he belonged, but Lambert was not really given a spot where he was, a chance to thrive. And we've seen this with Ville Handel over the years too, right? You put a guy in for 1 or 2 games and then you take him out for a while. That's not really giving him a chance. So Salamonson here has been afforded an opportunity that we rarely see in this era of a young guy getting an extended, consistent game after game run. And look what's happened. I mean, he was their top prospect, and he has, I would say, put himself in a position where you cannot take him out of the lineup unless he's hurt for the next 7 years, honestly. Like, he's here. Elias Salamonson is an NHL defenseman now. I think it's fair to say. And so, as you mentioned, the only reason that happened is because guys got hurt. Cheveldayoff in his presser last time we heard from him a month ago, it was asked of him, it was like, why aren't young guys getting opportunities except for when guys get hurt? And he basically said, well, young guys get opportunities when guys get hurt. And it was not a satisfying answer. And so, they need to give guys a chance. You need to know, right? Guys have been blocked here forever from getting opportunities from the Moose to the Jets. And I think it's absolutely necessary. You need to know if Lambert could be on your team next year. You need to know if Chibrikov could be on your team next year. Because, again, that's faster, that's younger, and it's cheaper for young players to come into your lineup and be able to contribute. And this team is too old. It is too slow. we saw what that looked like last offseason. They bring in a bunch of old, slow free agents, and they are near the bottom of the standings and might be picking in the top 5. So I think it's absolutely imperative that you get guys in. You mentioned Jilkin. Maybe you have, maybe you want to see Barlow if he's ready to at least get a few games in, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But I think the top of the list is for sure, I think, is, Jilkin, Lambert, and Chibrikov. And you can put Ford in there if you want to as well. But I think those, you have to, because this team can't just rely on free agents and old veterans anymore. We saw what that looked like this year. Complete failure.
So let's talk about that. Christian Aumell from 680 CJOB is our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Let's talk about that. So after the Jets get that 20 games to evaluate these young players to see if they're ready to step into the NHL next year and see what role they're ready to step in at, I'm of the opinion that I'd be surprised if any of these guys are ready to step in at a second line role for the Winnipeg Jets, which is, of course, the biggest area of concern for this team. How do they solve that problem entering next season? We know that they're not usually a big player in unrestricted free agency. We know that, I just don't see a clear path to finding that success and filling those holes right now for the Winnipeg Jets. The trade, unless you're dealing your high first round pick for a ready-made solution, I just don't know how this isn't a discussion that we're having almost next year at the beginning of the season or into October and November.
Yeah, it feels like they'd have to package a bunch of stuff to trade for a guy in the offseason. I'll be honest, I haven't looked to see who might be available and the contract statuses of second-line centers across the NHL.
Take a guy like Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas is allegedly on the trade market.
Right.
I don't believe it. I'd be shocked if it happens, but that's what we'll defer to the experts, and I'm putting that in quotes. Is something like that a huge proactive trade, something that the Winnipeg Jets have never really made before? Right. Is that the only solution to solving these problems?
It might be, right? It might take something that we haven't seen before, because guess what? We haven't seen in a while. It's the Jets making the third round of the playoffs, right? And the one year they did, they made a great trade for a second line center at the deadline in Paul Stastny, and I feel like they've been chasing that for 8 years now. Right. And I look at whatever they're able to accumulate in this next few weeks after the freeze thaws. What do they have, and can they package that for something without touching what's going to be a really good first round pick?
Right.
Can they make that move without? Now, it depends where that pick ends up being. If it ends up being 7 or 8, I'm maybe a little more okay with it getting moved for like a proven 27-year-old. I don't know who that would be, but if it's 1 to 4, they have to keep that, I think.
So you'd be willing to consider moving the first round pick as long as you protected it to some degree.
I think so. Again, it's a very interesting spot where this team is, right? Because they want to win now, but we're almost to the point where you have to wonder if they can win now, right? Because I don't know if we're ready to have the hard conversations about the core of this team, but they haven't been out of round 2 in 8 years. And last year, right, they do, they lose a tough series to a good team, but they went 0 for 6 on the road and scored 9 goals in 6 road games in the playoffs. And that St. Louis series was just wonky as hell. But they're not getting younger. The non-splitting up of Connor Scheifele still baffles me to this day. Like, try that. Like, you've played almost every card here. Try that. But anyway, their option, that's another option, right? You split them up, but Scheifele is still a center who's centering Connor and whoever, right? They don't have that in the building, I don't think. It certainly wasn't Toews. Lowry can't play that role. I don't think Barron can quite play that role. Lambert is probably like Perfetti in that he's going to end up being a winger more than a centerman, even though they were drafted as centermen. And I think that's one of the kind of secrets of where they are right now, too, is that they had a 10th pick, their best pick in forever. They picked Perfetti thinking he was their solution to center, right? And they had Dubois, too, come into the building not long after that. And all of a sudden, Dubois is gone, and Perfetti's not a center. And they're still looking for one, right? And that's when people look at Winnipeg or Seth Jarvis and pick 2 picks later, and they're like, oh, duh. But Perfetti was a centerman, right? And but he's not. They haven't tried him there in the NHL really, but I don't think they want to.
They played him one game. Didn't Bonus start him the first game of the season like 3 years ago, and then they quickly abandoned that experiment?
Yeah,
right.
I think I remember being at Hockey Brawl Center talking about it as part of the Jets Fan Fest show. That's one of the big questions. And
wouldn't that be amazing if just moving Perfetti back to center solved all the problems? Like that would be...
or do you put Velarde in the middle because he was the center at one point too, right? Do you? Yeah. Again, it's the last 20 games of the season. Try stuff, right? Yep. Why not try stuff? You're not going anywhere. You're not going to make the playoffs. Try stuff, and we're going to get the line rushes, and it's going to be like, oh, it's this again. Okay. But yeah, there's no easy answers to this without being bold, I think, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff. And that's just not a thing we have seen all that often. However, when we have seen him trade players that are not going to re-sign here, and I think this applies to Stanley and only Stanley going into this deadline, he's done well, right? Whether it's Andrew Kopp, whether it's Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? These player for stuff trades have gone fairly well for the Winnipeg Jets. And so he's been good at that, but he's had a rough last 12 months in terms of the transactions that he's made. And a lot of pressure is on him to get this right because the Jets are at a crossroads right now. And there's a lot of ways this could not be good enough over the next few weeks and into the summer too.
I think you make a lot of good points, Christian, and I think Drew brings up a really good point about the first round pick, which we expect to be, well, at the very least, it's going to be a top 10 pick, but it could be a top 5 pick. And I think that absolutely has to be in play if you're talking about acquiring a Robert Thomas quality centerman, right? So I couldn't agree more with you. I wanted to ask you, we haven't even brought him up, the reigning Hart Trophy and Vezina Trophy winning goaltender Connor Hellebuyck. You know, I'm thinking about this Olympic men's tournament, and he's one player that I'm fascinated to watch because it's not a guarantee that he's going to be the top goalie. It could be Jake Ottinger. I think we all agree that most likely Jeremy Swayman is the third goaltender. I'm not sure if he even gets a game. But to me, the reason why I think it's so fascinating is because Hellebuyck with the knee surgery and his numbers are not what we expect from Connor Hellebuyck. These Olympics, I should say, can be a bit of a redemption story for Connor Hellebuyck, don't you think?
Yeah, for this season, right? This is kind of all that's there. He talked a couple weeks ago about what's left for him to get. He wants a shutout, right? And he doesn't have one yet. His save percentage is at the moment the lowest it's been in his career for a single season. His goals against is not, but at 900, his save percentage is because he's they're losing games, not giving up. Like they used to give up 38 shots, and now they're giving up 24 in losses. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be the number one. I think it's more open. It was clear cut going into the Four Nations that it was Hellebuck's crease. Now there's more games at the Olympics than there are at the Four Nations, so there's more opportunity for both to play. But I don't think it's set in stone. And we don't know. He comes back from his knee surgery and is able to play. Is he 85%? Is he 80%? Is that what this looks like compared to 100% Hellebuyck last year? It's not any one thing. I think it's part of it is the team defense in front of him has not been as good. Part of it is maybe he hasn't been as good. And what maybe we're reminded of is for years, Herculean Hellebuyck was the thing that held this team together. And if he's just good, this is what it looks like, which is a scary thought as someone has knee surgery and is, getting into their early to mid 30s as a goaltender. But yeah, I mean, obviously rooting for Canada, but there's the interest of watching the U.S. because they have a couple Jets on the team. And Kyle Connor last year, too, got benched for the final, right? All three Jets in that, final game, Morrissey was sick, couldn't play. Hellebuyck loses in overtime. Connor got scratched. It ended up being a really weird night for the Jets and their fans because, it was not what we thought it would be. And so I'm for all three players, really interested in seeing how this tournament goes. Morrissey had a great tournament last year, just got sick for the final. You just feel terrible for him. But yeah, this, I could totally see Ottinger taking that crease. But he's had an up and down season too for Dallas. I still think their goaltending situation is better than Canada's.
No, absolutely, and that's why I asked you, Christian, because I'll let Dave get in here with the last question for you here. But I just think it's fascinating because kind of similar to Canada, like I mean, then we're going into more of an Olympic type of segment here with you, Christian. But
we're in a Canada jersey, might as well.
Is Jordan Binnington your number one goalie? Like,
no.
Speaking of bad years, but he was really good in the Four Nations tournament, right? So, like, I don't know who your number one goalie is right now. So it's similar to the U.S. I just think it's going to be interesting to see who gets the first game? Is it Ottinger or Hellebuck? And does Hellebuck possibly emerge and take back his throne, so to speak, as the number one goaltender for the U.S.? Because obviously both of these teams are favorites in the tournament, right? So I just think it's going to be interesting to see if Hellebuck's able to get the majority of the starts in Milano Cortina.
I think Hellebuck gets the first start, and then we'll go from there. Doesn't mean he's going to get all the starts. We've seen in Olympics past for several teams, including Canada.
Sure.
And I think, yes, exactly right. And then from Canada's point of view, it would have to be Logan Thompson, except he just got hurt and he's coming back from injury. So
he played a game. He played Thursday night, I believe, for the Capitals.
He did.
Yeah.
I would give it to him. And there's some time here before they play their first game. Binnington sucks this year.
Yes.
And I don't think that's sugarcoating it. He's been really, really not good. He's lost the starting job in St. Louis. The only reason he's on this team is probably twofold. One, Doug Armstrong's Canada's GM. And two, he was objectively really good and was probably the number one reason why they won the Four Nations faceoff. But that was a year ago. A lot has happened since. I don't know if he's, earned the benefit of the doubt in the way that Connor Hellebuck would have. His plays dipped a little bit. We're talking about him at, look at Hellebuck's really come off and he's still decent, whereas Binnington has been legitimately bad. So
you got to go with the former Brandon Wheat King goaltender, right, Christian?
Hey, Owen Sound Attack. Jordan Binnington was the starter on that team when they went on their OHL run in 2011. He will always hold a special place in my heart. Right now, though, he is not very good. So I think you go with Thompson.
Yeah.
No, Christian, last one from us is just in terms of what this break can do for some of these guys, because we've looked at Adam Lowry, we look at Cole Perfetti, we look at Dylan Sandberg, who had obviously all had to deal with injury throughout the course of the year. And because of the nature of this condensed schedule, it's been hard for guys to get practice time, get time, whatever. So, I mean, obviously the season is a lost season, but from your perspective, what will a break like this do for guys like that, who at least they'll get 10 days off the ice before they're skating, on the 17th or 18th, whatever it's going to be?
Just realized the Owen Sound Platers banner is right there.
Oh, nice.
So I pointed that before.
Nice little pennant.
Or the Dallas Stars logo there. I think the break's going to help Toews the most because he was solid at the start of the season and then tapered off when the games got busy. He was great coming to the Christmas break and then tapered off when the games got busy. So I reckon that he's going to be solid out of this break. And if they keep him, probably taper off as the games get busy. There's a lot riding on that because this contract takes up a lot of space and all of his bonuses. Does he want to win? I know I'm hijacking your question here, but does he want to win?
That's all good.
Now, does he want to stick with the Jets? Is it like 1 year being like, all right, you know what? I'm going to retire now for real. These are all questions that really matter to figure out, I think, before the deadline for Kevin Cheveldayoff and this team, right? Because that's a piece for sure. Along the lines of Shen, where you look at his pedigree more than his results this year, might be what ends up getting you some return for that player. I think from Lowry and Sandberg and Perfetti's perspective, it took some time for those guys to really find their way coming out of their injuries. I think from Perfetti's point of view, his issue hasn't so much been him. His finishing, like he's hit how many posts, he's missed the net by this much, like he's been this close so many times. For him, it's just who are his playing partners, because that's really impacted his play. With Velarde, he's been really solid. They had that great run with Toews in the middle for a couple of weeks, and then once Toews tapered off, that line sort of did too. I think Lowry, asking him to be the 2C is probably a little much too. I think coming off a major hip surgery, that's a lot, right? Some players come back from major hip surgery and are never the same. Mm-hmm. Some, Patrick Kane is, but most guys aren't. So I think some, patience there, I think for him down the stretch. Just asking him to be the 2C. Keeping guys in their role, right, also helps them even if they're not 100%. So Lowry being a 3C is where he needs to be because they don't have a 2C. Sandberg with Salmonson has really looked great. He took some time when they were together at the end of November, early December. It was rough, but Sandberg's good now, so I don't think we need to worry about him. But yeah, I think Perfetti and Lowry look good now health wise. It's just a matter of production and role on this team. But a break for sure, I think, helps this team. But we're also at the point where results, whatever, honestly, like, okay, they're all rested and ready to win games. Okay, sure, they're 11 out. I don't know. It's really, when I'm watching this team now, it's kind of weird, right? Because we're not in a position we've been in a long time where this team's just near the lottery. That just, like that Dave Lowry year, they weren't even like this down the standings. Right. They weren't good, but they were still kind of flopping around the playoff line. It's just weird in February to just be talking about, like all the fans that want this team to tank and all the talk about tanking and ethical tanking and all that stuff. Like, that's just, we're so unfamiliar with that in this market. So watching the team now, knowing that a lot of fans are okay with them losing, it's just weird.
Christian Aumell, 680 CJOB. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Great insight, great analysis, great jersey, great pennant, great all around. We'll see you again back at the arena in a couple weeks' time. Thanks, Christian.
Have a good show, guys.
Cheers.
Take care. Thanks so much. There he goes, Christian Aumell, joining us this morning here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by our friends at Play Now. When we come back, we'll have more Jets talk. We'll talk about the Olympics. We'll talk about really anything under the sun. It's the Jets are on hiatus.
Can we talk about alpine skiing, Drew?
If you want. Do you know much about alpine skiing?
No, I threw out a random sport.
Oh, okay. Well, sure. If you want
to, I was watching Great Britain versus the U.S. in women's curling, though.
That was the mixed doubles curling, I believe, right?
Sorry, mixed doubles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was watching that as well. We were watching a little bit of the freestyle skiing or the aerials, where it's crazy the things that they're doing, but I'm a land-based mammal, so I can't fully wrap my brain around.
What's the new sport again?
I don't know. There's lots of new sports.
No, there's a new sport in the Olympics.
Mountaineering, is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, mountaineering, where you climb a mountain, you hike a mountain, and then you ski down the mountain.
I'm just glad that they brought in an Olympic event that Drew's been doing for years. Right? Like Drew's been going up mountains and skiing down mountains for years now. Finally, it's an Olympic event.
It's, actually, that's why we're not doing the show next week. I have to fly to Milan Cortina to compete in it.
When Drew gets to the top of Spring Hill after 4 hours of hiking it, it's like he feels so validated. He's like, I can't, this ride down is going to be so good. It's going to be exhilarating.
Spring Hill, that's too tall for me to get down. We're talking maybe Garbage Hill on a good day for me. And then I need a toe lift to get up there.
I'm not sure there's a big disparity between Spring Hill and Garbage Hill at this point.
The Illegal Curve Olympics, where Dave and I just pushed Drew down Garbage Hill.
And every time I try and stand up, he pushed me back down again. I'd watch that. I'll be honest. I would watch that.
Do you remember that newscast where the newscaster is speaking at the bottom of a hill,
slide,
and the guy just takes him out? Yeah, and he takes him out and he flips. That's what we'll do. Ezra and I'll come.
My favorite one is, I don't know where in the U.S. this was, but when that couple, it's like there's a big snowstorm and they interview that couple and they're running in the snow, and they say, why is running in the snow good? And she's like, oh, it's because it's so soft, it's really good on the limbs. And then they pan, and then they start running, and then she face plants.
I know the video you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, it's such a great, relaxing and enjoying experience. And she turns and runs away and just poof, hits the ground. It's a good one. I agree with you, Ezzy. Hour number 2 of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show up next. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, presented by our friends at Play Now.
I want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre.
Boys, I've made an important life decision, and I need your support.
Oh, boy.
I've decided to get a grill.
You mean a barbecue grill for cooking? Like, that's not an important life decision, Ezzy.
No. A grill for my teeth.
A grill for your teeth. Do I even want to know why you're doing this?
It's simple, really. Every time I go to Holt Dental, I get treated so very well by Dr. John and his team that I need to keep finding additional reasons to go back. I rely on Holt Dental for all of my dental needs, and they do it all, from regular cleanings to cosmetic dentistry. Plus, they have free parking at their front door, and you know how much I love my convenient parking.
For all your dental needs, Illegal Curve recommends Holt Dental, conveniently located on Taylor Avenue near Grant Park Mall. For more information, visit them online at holtdental.ca.
For over 40 years, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has been Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy. Renowned in the comedy world as a must-play venue, Rumors has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers, wedding socials, and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase show tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
This January, it's Pasta Tuesday every day at Boston Pizza. Our pastas start at just $11.99 all month long. Create your own or go gourmet for a little extra. Plus, the deal continues every Tuesday all year. Hungry for saucy savings? Hungry for BP.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manuka, Ezra Ginsburg with you. The big game, of course, is tomorrow. I'm not allowed to use the official name of the big game because of, I think, copyright restrictions or trademark restrictions or whatever it might be. But well, maybe I can, actually, now that I can say it. Yeah, the Super Bowl's tomorrow. I guess I can't say it in relation to promoting something else that somebody's promoting. But the Super Bowl's tomorrow, and you're probably going to make a bet on it. So we'd encourage you to make that bet with our friends at Play Now, Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site, 18+. Enjoy responsibly. The Patriots and the Seahawks will be tomorrow. And of course, there's the complete litany as he just vanished into the ether. There's the complete and all the possible prop bets and everything else under the sun that you want to bet on. You can bet with our friends at Play Now to that effect. Dave M., since our last show, which was Wednesday night, talking about the Jets and the Habs, but go take you back to Wednesday afternoon when we were at City Place and we were talking about the Olympics a little bit and about the Jets. And we were talking about, I'm not sure how we came up on the topic, but we were talking about Seth Jarvis. And we were all surprised that Seth Jarvis he wasn't named to Team Canada originally because of the injury. And then there hadn't been any buzz about Seth Jarvis as a potential injury replacement. Well, maybe we were a little prescient with our comments on Wednesday afternoon.
Clearly.
Because by Thursday, he was now a member of Team Canada, replacing Braden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who just could not get healthy enough to be an Olympian for Canada. So let me ask you this. Why Seth Jarvis? Are you surprised it was Seth Jarvis over other players, Scheifele, Hyman, other guys, Bedard, that had been bandied about? It seems like Seth Jarvis, we identified it on Wednesday that we were surprised there wasn't more chat about him, and it came to fruition by Thursday afternoon.
I'll jump in here first. I'm not surprised at all at Seth Jarvis. I think everybody knows why. He was on the Four Nations team, and not only was he on Team Canada's Four Nations team, he was good. He played well. He's got 25 goals this year. He's one of the Hurricanes' best players. So not at all surprised. I feel like, guys, regardless of who's picked, like if, let's say, Connor Bedard was picked, we'd be saying, well, what about Zach Hyman? What about Seth Jarvis? If Zach Hyman was picked, we'd be saying, well, what about Connor Bedard? What about Mark Scheifele, right? Like, so in that sense, I'm not surprised because these are all really good. These are all high-end players, right? Like, these are all guys that can play certain roles. And, I mean, I think if there's one knock on Scheifele, why he wasn't maybe ahead of Jarvis, why he wasn't ahead of Bennett, this is my own opinion, is because of his defensive play. Mm-hmm. Like, let's be honest here. He's having a career year offensively. What's he on pace for? 95 plus points, something like that. It's the defensive side where I think maybe that hurts him. That's the only thing, because, guys, what else could Mark Scheifele have done this year to make this team? He's having his best year ever, and so it's unfortunate that he doesn't make the team, but I'm sorry, but Seth Jarvis and Sam Bennett are really good players. I'm not necessarily saying that they're better. That's not what I'm saying. But they're also really good players that obviously Team Canada thought were going to help them win in Italy. So, yeah, it's unfortunate because, look, Mark Scheifele's 33 years old. I don't think he gets another chance here. This was his one chance to play in the Olympics. So I just want to get that on the record. I feel for him because I think there's a difference between deserving to be there and then actually being there when the team is so stacked. Like it's hard. Like Connor Bedard, people say, well, he's too young. Well, Macklin Celebrini's on the team. So I'm sorry, I don't accept that. I think people have pointed to, like, you know, the last 20 or so games, Connor Bedard's play has fallen off a little bit, but it goes back to what it goes.
He came back from his injury.
Yeah, the injury. So it goes back to what I said. I mean, if any one of these players made the team, there'd still be another guy, Dave, that you'd be saying, well, you know, he deserved to be on the team too.
Well, it's, you know, maybe Scheifele wasn't as close to making this team as we all expected. I think that's also becoming a little bit more apparent, Dave, is that, you know, when they go down the list of injuries, you know, they've obviously had to replace 2 players now. And Scheifele, you know, wasn't either of those 2 players. So you wonder actually how far down that list he really, in actuality, was.
Well, I mean, let's be realistic. Seth Jarvis made the Four Nations roster. Did Mark Scheifele?
He did not.
So why would we be surprised? And that's, I think, why we were a little incredulous when we were having this conversation at City Place. That, go ahead,
Dave. I was just going to say, sorry. I know you know me well enough to know that I'm trying to get my fat mouth in here. All I was going to say is the only guy, I believe, I could be wrong, but the only forward that was on the Four Nations team that's not on the Olympic team is Travis Konechny.
I think that's right.
Right?
Besides the injured players.
So what I'm saying is, further to your point, Dave, the Canada brass, Doug Armstrong, like, you know, they and company, they obviously liked the Four Nations team, and they've basically replicated it here.
Yeah, I think exactly, and that's why like Jarvis over Scheifele. I mean, you could say center versus winger, but maybe they weren't looking for a winger. A center. I mean, again, we've all seen Mark Scheifele's defensive woes. He can score, no question about it, but defensively, and we've seen the lapses. And do you want to have someone who's going to make those types of mistakes? Maybe that's the knock on him. Maybe there's another. I mean, I was listening to the Overdrive guys talk about it a little bit because they were somewhat incredulous that Mark Scheifele wasn't on the roster based on how well he scores. And I don't remember which. I think it was Noodles who said it, and he said, "Well, maybe there's reasons, you know." And it was kind of like, dun, 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 like, what does that mean exactly? You know, like maybe the guys didn't want him on the team or whatever. But
and they were like me, Dave. They wanted Hyman. Like I honestly thought Zach Hyman had a really good chance, but Seth Jarvis is better than him offensively. So,
well, and yeah, that's just it, as right. So you're trying to figure out exactly what it is that these guys are evaluating and deciding on ultimately. And look, the problem is you don't get an answer, right? So it's always left, it's mysterioso, because you're like, well, I wonder what the reason is, but we don't actually know. So I look at it and you can only surmise that, you know, Mark Scheifele's lack of defensive acumen as a center, which is what he is. I'm not saying they couldn't have played him on the wing, but, you know, is probably hurt him, or the fact that, again, Seth Jarvis is the guy that is produced. I mean, Jarvis is a gamer, right? But he's also 9 years younger than Mark Scheifele. So, you know, it is a surprise. And I agree with Ezzy that it's tough because this is probably his last kick at the can in terms of the Olympics. Now, let's say he changes his game like Steve Yzerman and becomes a defensive shutdown guy, more responsible. As nothing to say. Look, you've got older guys like Sidney Crosby, so he's still going to the Olympics. It's not a function. I'm not saying
he's not going to the Olympics.
I'm not suggesting Mark Scheifele is. I'm saying that if he wants to, Drew. I mean, I'm not saying anything, and I'm just ultimately.
Sorry, Dave, to back you up here.
Yeah,
it's not impossible that Scheifele makes the Olympic team at 37, but I'd say it's improbable.
Yeah, that's fair. All I'm saying is that, like, again, it's, you know, you have to have a goal. I mean, let's be realistic. Mark Scheifele's goal at the beginning of the season was to make the Olympic team. That was he wanted to make the Four Nations team. Hugely disappointed by that. And then you say, okay, fine. That, you know, I mean, Doug's saying if it wasn't Scheifele, it should have been Bedard. But I just don't know that Bedard has been tearing it up since his injury. Right? He's not necessarily been playing at the same level as he was before it. So
I don't think people realize how great of a player Seth Jarvis is.
Well, I mean,
I think that people don't fully, you know, I don't know if it's a function of playing in Carolina, and as a result, it's certainly not what you would describe as a big market. But Seth Jarvis is an incredible hockey player. He's got 43 points in 49 games played this year. He missed a chunk of time due to the injury, but so you look at his eye test, you look at his raw numbers, you look at his analytics, they're all through the roof. I have no problem with Seth Jarvis being on this team ahead of Mark Scheifele, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I would have probably objected more if it was a Bedard who beat out Scheifele, or if maybe even, Hyman, because of his chemistry with McDavid, is a sort of a different story altogether. But to your point, Ezzy, Seth Jarvis made this team the Four Nations Cup team, and he made it handily. And there's no reason why he shouldn't have been on Team Canada, except for the fact that he had an untimely injury.
Yeah, and like some people are pointing to, like Braden Point was a guy who you can use on the power play, right? You could also penalty kill. Seth Jarvis is a guy that you can use on the power play. But Scheifele, wouldn't Scheifele look nice, guys, passing the puck to Nathan McKinnon or Macklin Celebrini or maybe even his teammate Josh Morrissey? I'm not sure if Morrissey's going to get a lot of power play time, but he might.
I think he'd get second unit time, right?
Yeah, it's possible. I think
Makar would get the primary time.
Yeah, Cale Makar, I was thinking is going to demand that first power play. But I think it ultimately comes down to, guys, when you're talking about the Olympics, like, other countries don't have this type of luxury, right? Like maybe the US is maybe one other country, Sweden, but there's always going to be good players that get left off. There just is. There's just too many good Canadian hockey players, right? So I disagree with Dave in the sense, disagree politely, Dave, that I wasn't surprised by Jarvis. Like, I was hoping for Scheifele, but again, hoping is different than what Team Canada is thinking when you're trying to win a gold medal. So again, it's unfortunate for Scheif that he doesn't make the team, because it's probably his last opportunity to play in the Olympics. But again, you like Winnipeg Seth Jarvis. It's a great story. He gets injured, didn't look like he was going, and now he gets to go to the Olympics. So
and he plays in all situations for the Hurricanes. He gets a minute 40 of shorthanded time per game on average for the Hurricanes.
Right, and Scheifele doesn't play PK, so you got to think about that, right?
Yeah,
exactly. That's why, again, like I said, folks maligning. I don't know how many people from Winnipeg are, but Seth Jarvis is a heck of a good player. And let's be realistic. The biggest lamenting organizationally is back in 2020, Ezzy, when the Jets had that pick, not taking the local kid. We can't go back and look at, but wouldn't Seth Jarvis look good on this Jets team in the top six?
Well, yes, but I honestly kind of get annoyed with all that talk, Dave, because you go back and we cover the draft every year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cole Perfetti, some people had going top 5.
Oh no, absolutely.
So, right, it's easy to go back retroactively and say, the Jets should have taken Seth Jarvis. Well,
no, I'm not.
Someone should have taken Nikita Kucherov
in the
first round of 2011.
Someone should have taken Wyatt Johnston. Like, there's no question that, like, you can always look back. This one just is
woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, this one's just really tough because he's a Winnipegger, right? But yeah, no, you're absolutely.
They should have formulated the trade to get Mark Stone. They should have given up Jack Raw. Look, there's plenty of times where
they should have done
Dave,
that.
You're absolutely right. It's because Jarvis is from Winnipeg.
Yeah,
I think it bothers a lot of people because it's like, oh, we took Perfetti, but we could have had Jarvis at 10th overall. So
right,
yes, but I still think Perfetti is a great player, and I still think this year's an anomaly. I still think, I don't know if Perfetti is necessarily going to have the same trajectory as Seth Jarvis, but I still see, at least, you guys might disagree, but I still see Perfetti as like a regular 60 to 70 point guy, which is pretty damn good for a 10th overall pick.
Well, if he gets back to that level of consistency, then obviously this, look, everyone this year is upset with it because the Jets are struggling so much, and one of the people who are struggling is Cole Perfetti. I agree with you, Ezzy, that I don't think it's impossible that he'll come back and be a, I don't know if he can get all the way up to 70 points, but 60 points, I don't think it's impossible that with a full year and better health and better line mates that he won't recapture some of the great qualities that made him an interesting player for the Jets last year, as opposed to the disaster that has been this year from him. But I just thought it was interesting because we talked about Seth Jarvis on Wednesday afternoon, just saying that we were all surprised that there's not more buzz about him. And then it was percolating behind the scenes, obviously, with Braden Point leaving, that Seth Jarvis is going to step up. And
I think it would have been a little bit more interesting if Logan Thompson wasn't able to go. And now all of a sudden that's your number one goaltender. Who replaces him, right? Like, I think Mackenzie Blackwood would have been probably a good option. I think Scott Wedgwood, I know people think that's ridiculous, but Wedgwood's been excellent for Colorado. So I think that one would have been interesting, but luckily Logan Thompson's going to be ready to go. So.
Well, we know how serious the goaltending issue is going to be, and it's going to be an issue for Team Canada until it's not an issue. I mean, at the end of the Olympics, we very well could be pointing at the goaltending situation and saying, well, this is what ended up being the bugaboo for Team Canada. This is what ended up being the reason they didn't win gold, is Canada's inability to produce superstar goaltenders anymore. I know whether it's a permanent inability or if it's just a temporary lull. Obviously, time will tell on that front. But going back to goaltending, let's shift it over to the Connor Hellebuyck question. I mean, I think I agree with Christian that Connor Hellebuyck probably gets the first game for Team USA, but given the way he's performed as of late for the Winnipeg Jets, I don't have an unbelievable degree of confidence that it's his net, for the entirety of the tournament. He hasn't been great for the Jets, whether that's a function of the injury he suffered, whether that's a function of the poor defensive play in front of him, probably a combination of all of the above, but I'm not convinced that Hellebuyck is going to be the be-all and end-all for goaltending for Team USA in this tournament.
Well, but there's a difference between be-all, end-all, Drew, and this basically being completely open in terms of who's going to be the number one goaltender. That's the way I look at it.
I think it's an open competition. I don't know that Hellebuyck's going to be I would not be surprised if Hellebuyck loses the job. If he starts with the job, I wouldn't be surprised if he loses the job.
Right. Yeah, that's a fair point. I just don't think it's his job right now. Like, I think, and again, I obviously don't have, I don't talk to USA Hockey all the time. So this is just a guy in Winnipeg who follows the Jets, who watches Hellebuyck. Like, I think Hellebuyck and Ottinger, whoever's playing better, like let's say Hellebuyck plays the first game and they win. I don't know who the US plays in the first game, but let's just say he wins. Let's say Ottinger plays the second game and they lose, right? Like, there's a bunch of different things that can happen. So I agree with you, though. At the Four Nations,
do you know what Jake Ottinger's save percentage is this year?
It's like 899 or something.
You're very close, 897. I mean, it's not like he's I think Christian made that same point. It's not like Ottinger has been fantastic. He's got a lot of wins on the year, because he plays on a very good hockey team. But it's not like Ottinger has been this lights out, no doubt about it, goaltender for the Dallas.
So Drew,
Stars.
what you're saying is that maybe it's Jeremy Swayman time.
Honestly, I think it's just, Hellebuyck's got the 900 save percentage. Jeremy Swayman's at 903. The U.S.
He's also a member of the tribe.
Yes, that's as well the case. I'm not sure that's going to factor in to the decision making that Team USA is going to use. But it is, we talk all about how bad Canada's goaltending is. It's sort of interesting that the U.S. goaltenders are better in name value, but their on ice performance this year has not been through the roof, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. And I think that's what's fascinating about a short tournament like this, because you go back to the Four Nations guys, and it was clear Connor Hellebuyck is the number one goaltender for the U.S. There were certain things that were more clear. Jordan Binnington, you can kind of put the dots together, but it wasn't as big of a question mark. The goaltending, I shouldn't say that. There were a lot of questions surrounding Jordan Binnington, but he ended up playing well, and Canada won gold, right? So, I just kind of moving away from Hellebuyck here for a second, I also think it's going to be really interesting, Dave, to see how Kyle Connor's used. Because Kyle Connor, everybody knows what happened in the Four Nations, and Kyle Connor's having a fantastic season. So it's going to be interesting to see who he ends up playing with and how he's used. But I'm excited to see a lot of guys. Like, I'm really excited to see Josh Morrissey, right? Like on the Olympic stage. It's the first time for all of these guys. Like, that's not completely true for most of these guys. Like, obviously Sidney Crosby and others have gone to the Olympics, but for most of these guys, it's the first Olympic experience. So I look at it and I'm going in completely eyes wide open and expecting a very wide open tournament. Canada's probably still the favorite, but we all know that, there's always upsets, right? Like, Germany beating Canada, right? In, what was that? The 2022 Olympics, or did they beat them 2-1? I think, wasn't the final, the bronze medal final, Canada versus Germany. Anyways, I forget, but there's always upsets. So it's always a fun tournament. Always expect the unexpected, right?
Dave, when you getting in here, just before you do on the goaltending and everything else, Ottinger goal saved above expected this year, 48th in the NHL. -1 is his goal saved above expected. Jeremy Swayman, he's 4th in the NHL, 16.2, and then Connor Hellebuck 20th at 7.2. So I mean, really, Ottinger, besides the wins, has been almost maybe has struggled the most of the 3 U.S. goaltenders in terms of their actual in-net performance. So it's just another interesting layer to the debates and the decision making that's going to be going on between all of these front offices between now and the first Olympic men's hockey game. The Canadian women, by the way, they get started today against Switzerland sometime. I don't think it's while we're on air. I think it's shortly after we finish. So that's something you can definitely tune into. The Canadian and women's Olympic hockey dreams start later on today as well. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think the interesting thing to me is how much do the people who put this team together have a factor in, right? Like, so Doug Armstrong, the GM of Canada, and is he, Jordan Binnington's his guy? Is that the reason? I mean, people assume that's the reason why. Obviously, the Binnington's on the roster, but I just think it's going to be really interesting, and I don't think I think what's so surprising at this point, boys, is like you just went through Ottinger's numbers, Drew, and it's surprising given how well Dallas has played this year. But I think it's interesting that there's no clear-cut favorites to be like, this is the starter. This is the starter. And I think that's the storyline. So, yeah, I don't think that it's not like you're saying this is Connor Hellebuck's net. Why would you? This is not Jake Ottinger's net. Why would you? We never would have had this. I mean, to even think about this conversation before Dallas and Winnipeg played each other in the playoffs the second round last year would have been like shocking, right, guys? But ultimately, neither one of these guys is really established to take the net, similar to the story in Winnipeg, in Canada. So it's going to be definitely one of the storylines amongst many that we'll be watching.
We are scheduled to be joined by Brian Engblom at the bottom of the hour for more NHL talk, more Olympics talk, more everything talk. So that'll be our cue to take our final commercial break this morning here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Before we go to break, Canada has won their first medal at the Olympics.
Oh, nice.
It is a bronze by Canadian speed skater Valerie Maltese. She wins bronze in the women's 3,000 meter long track speed skating competition. So congratulations to Valerie.
Is that the first overall medal?
No, I think there's probably been other medals handed out. Okay. I'm not entirely certain, but that's the first one for Canada for certain, coming on the long track of the speed skating.
Go crazy oval. Canucks, right, Drew?
Go crazy, indeed. And when we come back, I can even tell you my story about the short track speed skating competition from the Vancouver 2010 Olympics. I'm huge in Mongolia. More on the other side of the break. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, and the Illegal Curve Hockey Show continues.
I want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre.
Boys, I've made an important life decision, and I need your support.
Oh, boy.
I've decided to get a grill.
You mean a barbecue grill for cooking? Like, that's not an important life decision, Ezzy.
No. A grill for my teeth.
A grill for your teeth? Do I even want to know why you're doing this?
It's simple, really. Every time I go to Holt Dental, I get treated so very well by Dr. John and his team that I need to keep finding additional reasons to go back. I rely on Holt Dental for all of my dental needs, and they do it all, from regular cleanings to cosmetic dentistry. Plus, they have free parking at their front door, and you know how much I love my convenient parking.
For all your dental needs, Illegal Curve recommends Holt Dental, conveniently located on Taylor Avenue near Grant Park Mall. For more information, visit them online at holtdental.ca.
For over 40 years, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has been Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy. Renowned in the comedy world as a must-play venue, Rumors has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers, wedding socials, and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase show tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Bottom of the hour. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. It's presented by our friends at Play Now, but I want to give a shout out to all of our great sponsors. You, of course, just saw the ads on the screen. Boston Pizza. Kudos to Dave M for updating the ad mid-show. That was impressive.
Not bad. Not bad.
Our friends at Holt Dental, they're my son was there earlier this week. That was terrific, of course.
Now, here's the question. Did you take him or did Laura take him?
My wife's name is Laura, not Lauren.
Well, no, if you let me, you have to give me a little bit of grace here with my voice there, Drew.
Yes, Laura took him because I had a separate meeting at the house at the same time. We divided and conquered.
How's your son's grill looking, Drew?
Sam's got his great grill. He's the new Paul Wall is what he is. City Place, we were there earlier this week. We'll be back there again next month for another mid-afternoon show, lunch hour show. Our friends at Wheatland Hockey and, of course, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. Big shout out to all of our sponsors for their support. So back to my story. We were at the 2010 Vancouver Olympics, Laura and I were, and we were at the short track speed skating event. By the way, if you've never seen short track speed skating live and in person, it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It's incredibly fast. It's incredibly chaotic. It's like roller derby on ice. So it is a ton of fun. That was probably the highlight of the event that I went to in 2010.
How much did those tickets run you, Drew?
They were not expensive at all, in fact,
oh, really?
because they usually tickets to the Olympic Games, at least this is going back, 16 years ago now. For Canadians themselves, they were relatively inexpensive, especially that was probably our most expensive ticket because it was the gold medal finals.
Right.
So it had the most excitement attached to it. But we went to a number of different events and the tickets were not prohibitively expensive back in the day at all, which was, fortuitous. I don't know if that's still the case, but in any event. So we're at the short track speed skating. I'm walking around the concourse. And there's a TV crew and they are interviewing people. So they come up to me and they say, we ask you a few questions. And I say, sure, of course.
Like, oh, hey, Drew from the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Yeah, they didn't say that.
LegalCurve.com hockey show.
The Illegal Curve Hockey Show had debuted by that point in time.
Yeah.
It had debuted, but they didn't ask me that. And they're asking me questions about speed skating. I don't really remember what it was, but I think Apollo Anton Ono was the big speed skater at the time, if you remember him for Team USA. And so I'm answering the questions and I say to them afterwards, so where's this airing? Who are you with? And they were a Mongolian television crew. So I can only assume, having never traveled to Mongolia, that I'm huge in Mongolia as a result strictly of that interview.
If you don't think I'm getting you a t-shirt that says I'm Drew Mandel and I'm huge in Mongolia, you are sadly mistaken.
Speaking of t-shirts, what happened with the Drunk Hockey Show t-shirt from Wednesday's post-game show?
Well, I communicated with I don't want to out them, but even though
somebody donated the money in order to get the t-shirt.
What do you mean? You were part of the text exchange.
I know. I'm for the audience, Dave.
Sorry.
Come on, Dave. Come on.
Well, sorry, I'm a little fogged right now.
300 people on our private text exchange.
I understand that, but you asked it so quick, like it was such a good question. I'm confused. You were part of the exchange. Yes. Sorry, I'm a little slow this morning. I wasn't picking up what Drew was putting down.
Cold medicine have you inhaled there? Sudafed.
Quite a bit. I took a half a bottle of NyQuil, but
Dave, you would actually fail a drug test at the Olympics in Italy.
Oh, absolutely. I'm on Gus Nyquist right now. So I think that we jokingly said afterwards, we're like, there's no chance anybody's going to do it. And I want to say within 5 minutes of the show
I said
ending,
for sure that somebody was going to.
No, I said that we did that we didn't. I was joking saying, nobody's going to do that. And within 5 minutes, someone who I saw is already in the chat, but I don't want to out them. So they within 5 minutes, I think, had made a donation to, I don't want to get it wrong, so I'll make sure I read it properly. But they made a donation within 5 minutes, which I very much appreciated. They made a donation to the Manitoba Down Syndrome Society. Wonderful. And it was a sizable donation. Awesome. It wasn't just a few dollars here. So it was very nice of them. So I took it to the office on Thursday, and they were unable to attend. So I think I left it for them on my office on Friday. So hopefully they picked it up. But we very much appreciate their generosity.
There you go. Let's welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Our good friend Brian Engblom joins us. Brian, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. How are things?
I'm doing fine. Once I finally got the link, I'm kind of like
sorry about that, Brian.
No. I think it's something happened on my end. I'm not quite sure. I'm like a monkey with a gun sometimes. So what are you gonna do? It's here now.
There you go. Brian, obviously we brought you on talk a little bit about the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Olympics, the NHL season as a whole, but we got to start with Braden Point and Anthony Cirelli. I mean, two guys who are tremendous hockey players. We know where the Lightning are in the standings, have their eyes set on another lengthy playoff run. What's their level of disappointment not being able to get healthy enough to suit up for Team Canada at the Olympics?
Well, they'll hide it as best they can, but I feel crushed for them. It's to be named on the team, right at the beginning, looking forward to it, and at the 11th hour plus, you get hurt and you can't go. I can't imagine. I try to put myself in their spot, and I go, man, I just feel bad for you. It's just the price you pay playing our game, right? Injuries happen, and unfortunately, it couldn't be the worst time for them.
Brian, I was watching that game, as I know you were too, Tampa Bay versus the Florida Panthers. A little bit one-sided for those who weren't watching. It was 6-1 for the Lightning. It was an absolute clinic. This Lightning team, I don't know, Colorado's good, but this Lightning team might be the best team in the league. But when Matthew Tkachuk goes after Kucherov, and then Brandon Hagel and Tkachuk fought, it's almost like the Olympics started in that game.
This has been going on 5 or 6 years. It's when the Lightning were winning their cups, they had some brawls, and it was nasty even then. So then it flip-flops, and of course the Panthers have won the last couple of years, but it's been in the air and on the ice for 5-6 years, not just recently. They hate each other. I mean, that's very obvious. I mean, this is a throwback to the 1970s. Every time I do one of these games now, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, this is going to be fun again. They're fun games to do, but they're dangerous, right? And I was worried about that game too. Was somebody going to get racked up at literally the 12th hour and not be able to go to the Olympics? So you think the players were playing like that? No, it always just takes one hit or a couple of bad words from one of the guys, and it's the usual thing. Tkachuk is in the middle of it a lot of the time. Last year in the playoffs, in the first game, it wasn't probably more, I'm trying to remember, it wasn't more than 10 minutes into the first period. Tkachuk ran Kucherov from behind into the wall, and nobody responded. Nothing much happened. And Florida, I think, took that as a sign from there on, and they really pushed them all over the place, and they won the series, which is the worst part, right? I think the Lightning went into this year and went, nah, that's not going to happen anymore. So what happened the other night again is, who was it? And they can't say that they don't target, because it was Tkachuk hitting Kucherov from behind the blue line. Puck was on the other side of the ice. Mm-hmm. That's what started the brawl. Mm-hmm. Then Hagel came out, and Hagel explanation after the game was, Kucherov's our best player. Maybe, choose somebody else, but not him. And Brandon Hagel's not the biggest guy, but you can see what his motor is like all the time, right? And he went Tasmanian devil on Tkachuk. And he's a Tkachuk, right? He's fine with that. He knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot. And, guys like him, really, I don't mind in a way, like the good players. People complain about Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand's a hell of a player. So they do stupid stuff. It's part of hockey. I've seen it for 50 years. that doesn't bother me. It's when it's the grunts and the fourth line guys who, do stuff that they shouldn't be doing. That pisses me off. And sometimes they do these games now. I've been doing this a long time. Most of the time I'm pretty calm, but the last couple of games against Florida, I'm ready, it's like I want a piece of somebody too, right? It just gets you going. But so many times, like Brandon Hagel has been hit in the head 3 times in the last year plus by Florida. And so you can't say at this point it's not targeting. I mean, him and Kucherov. Now, again, this last game, it's Kucherov and Tkachuk went at him from behind, and that's why Hagel responded. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I get it. Okay. If you want to do that, then, the Lightning, that's why they bring in Sabrin. That's why they brought in Douglas. And they did it in the preseason, not just the first time, but the second time. So I think the message there was, and this is my interpretation, it's not anything Coop said, but the obvious look is like Sabrin was in for the first preseason game, then they sent him down. Next time they played Florida, Sabrin came back up. Like it's not too hard to figure out. And I think basically what they're saying is, you guys want to keep this crap going? Okay, let's go. Let's keep it going. No problem. You want to stop? We'll stop. But we're not going down the road that cost us a playoff series and a shot at the cup last year. I think that's pretty obvious. And right now it's total battle zone. And if they have to play each other in the playoffs again this year, it'll be must-watch TV. And I know that people have watched the last couple of years of playoff series as it is, but this will go to a whole nother level.
So, Brian, just to be clear, what you're saying is Steve Goldstein or Randy Moeller better watch out.
No. I'm way too old for that stuff. That's for sure. It just gets my blood boiling. That's for sure.
Well, I think a tag team of yourself and Dave Randorf would be just fine.
Well, Dave better be good, man.
Brian, it's amazing that game between the Panthers and the Lightning was so significant that it took away from that Stadium Series game, which was incredible, a huge attendance, and goalie fight. I mean, what message is this Tampa Bay Lightning team sending to the rest of the NHL? Because we obviously don't watch them very much being in the East, but when we've seen the Jets play them, like they played them that one game, they were in tight with them, but then eventually the Lightning pulled away, and they just look like the cream of the crop right now in the NHL.
They have played so well. It's amazing to me, Dave, because Victor Hedman and McDonough both missed over 30 games this year. The two top defensemen, right? You take the sheet and look at it and go, yeah, those are your top two guys. Over 30 games. Lilleberg, who's a really good, solid third pair defenseman, he's been out, still is out. I think he's close to coming back. Braden Point's been out the last 10 games. So you're talking about the top players on the team. And in the month of January, plus they were on the road for 9 games, home for 4. So you put all those things together and look at the 18-1-1 record, and it makes my jaw drop too. I'm amazed. I did all of their games. I watched all their games, and I go, that's a hell of a job. I mean, Coop and the coaching staff starts right there. They get, and they're confident enough. Now they expect to win, even though we have a lot of plug and play guys in there that have done just, a hell of a job, like Crozier and Carlisle on defense, who become, the third pair guys. Just players like that who have done the job. Kucherov is Kucherov, and he's just rocketed up the standings, right, which has made a huge difference. I think 10 games into the season, I want to say he was like 63rd in the league in scoring at the beginning of the year. And so now he's in third place. He's only a small handful of points behind McKinnon and McDavid. That is incredible because they were way out in front. So a lot of things have happened there. The outdoor game was outstanding. I've read a lot of things, I heard a lot of things, and people said, hey, this is my favorite, think it's the best, whatever. I mean, it's easy for us to say, right? It's our local game. And Jeff Vinik, I feel so bad for him. He's been pounding the table and asking. And Gary Bettman has said every time I see him, he asks for an outdoor game. Well, he got it. He ends up in the hospital watching it because he had a broken leg in a couple of different places from a snowmobiling accident. I mean, sometimes life is just not fair, right? Best owner in sports. We do truly believe that here. He is an outstanding guy. And the fact that he was able to persuade it, and it became the city of Tampa and the Lightning cooperate so well. You can ask people who came to the All-Star game a couple of years ago, and they'll say, this was terrific stuff. So they know how to get stuff done, and I think they proved that on the biggest stage as well for the outdoor game on Sunday.
Brian Engblom, our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Brian, going back to the Olympics, I mean, most prognosticators are expecting that it's going to be a Canada versus U.S. You know, those are the two favorite teams. You know, obviously Victor Hedman and Sweden are going to say something about that as well. But when you sort of look back, you look at the Olympic tournament and you look at the favorites involved in this tournament. What do you think the differentiating factor is going to be between all of the top teams in this tournament?
Always goaltending. It's always the goaltender. It's single game shots. Right. So if you're on the favorite team, whichever you prefer, the U.S. or Canada, you have a bad period, that might be enough to sink you. You have a bad game for sure in that you won't recover. And I'll preface this by saying I played for Team Canada in the Canada Cup in 1981. And it wasn't all Mike Liut's fault by any means. We lost the final game 8-1 against the Russians. You know, I hate thinking about it too. We all do. A couple of goals. The first couple of goals weren't great, and I'm sure Mike would like to have a couple of them back. But the rest of us didn't play very well either. Obviously, gave him too many chances. And then the last even 4 goals were like academic. Guys were just. And this was September, right? Canada Cup was in beginning of the year, not at the All-Star break like it is now. Right. So. That was the epitome. And again, I'm not trying to blame it all on Mike, but I think there was a shaky start there, and it just went, okay, that's it. We're done. You know, when you're playing a top team, they're not going to let you back in, right? So that's why I preface everything by saying goaltending, and goaltending are the 3 most important things when you're playing in the Olympics, because it's all a one-game shot. You get to the qualifying round, you don't even get to the medal round, right? You get to the gold medal game, and it's no good. It is what it is. It's the biggest pressure sport in all of team sports, pressure position for me. So having said that, the next most important thing to me will be the dynamics of who the best defensemen are in the series. And I'm not just being biased here, guys. I do truly believe it. Is it Cale Makar? You know, and we know what he's like, magnificent, or is it Quinn Hughes? I'm a huge Quinn Hughes fan. I'm a fan of both of them. Quinn Hughes really interests me in a different way. He's the closest thing, I think, style-wise and effectiveness to the game, to Bobby Orr. The way he moves on the ice, the way he looks to me, the way he feels to me, the way he manages the game. It's different than Cale Makar. Makar's magnificent. But to me, I've looked for a long time and I go, Quinn Hughes reminds me of Orr. So if he is playing 30 minutes in a night, so you can point to any of the forwards, you know, McDavid or anybody else. Yeah, they get a lot of ice time. But Cale Makar can play 30, 32 if you want, right? In a gold medal game, whatever you want. And same thing with Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes could play 35 minutes if they wanted him to. He'd manage his game. He'd know exactly what to do, how to use his time, how to stay fresh enough to be effective, all those things. So for me, the defensemen are the guys that you look at after the goaltending, and then you work your way up to big moment guys and, of course, power plays. That's kind of how I see those games.
And Brian, just, you know, sticking with the Olympics, and you mentioned the 1981 Canada Cup team that you were on, and I'm just looking at some of the names on this team, and, you know, when you're talking about defensemen, Larry Robinson, Denny Potvin, a young Ray Bourque, Bob Gainey, Brian Trottier, Guy Lafleur, a young Wayne Gretzky, like those were some really good players that you played with. And I unfortunately, obviously the final game didn't go the way we wanted, but I wanted to ask you about Josh Morrissey, because we have been spoiled here. I think similar to yourself in Tampa Bay with Victor Hedman, like Josh Morrissey is annually in the Norris conversation. Obviously, Cale Makar's kind of got that locked down a little bit, but what stands out to you when you, I know you focus more on the Lightning, but when you have a chance to watch the Jets, what kind of stands out for you? Because I'm a little bit biased. I'm really excited to see him play at the Olympics.
Yeah, I am too. He's a terrific player for sure. In today's game in particular, you have to have great feet. You have to be able to skate. Yeah, if you can't skate, you're just not going to be effective in today's game. And the guys that we've already talked about now, including Morrissey, that's what they do. Cale Makar is magnificent. Quinn Hughes, same thing. And there are others. Morrissey's right up there. His ability, because they're so smooth, they understand what they can do now. It takes a couple of years of experience to find out what can I do, what can't I do against certain players, against certain teams. That's a really important factor. You make mistakes by trying to do too much when you're great. I'm a big fan of that. Go ahead and try it. Try whatever you want, do whatever you want. And then that's how you find out, okay, that wasn't a great idea. Playing by the clock and the score. That is, I got taught that at the very beginning. Al McNeil was my coach in Nova Scotia the first year, and he used to pound that all the time. What time is it? What time is it? What's the score? What time is it? What's the score? It's everybody on the team should know that. What time is it? What's the score? You don't play the same all the way along, right? You talk about protecting leads and all that, but okay, that's what you're saying. What time is it and what's the score? Great players affect the outcome, especially of one game shots, because they know what time it is, they know what they can do, and then when they just go, I played with Larry Robinson. I remember sometimes there'd be a game where everything just kind of going sideways, whatever. I'd be sitting beside him on the bench, and he'd just go, screw this. And I could just see him go, just like this. And he'd go out there and go, okay, it might work, it might not, but the odds were pretty damn good when Larry did that. And you know what it does? Everybody on the bench just starts going like this, like, oh yeah, here we go, the big boy's going. I'm a big fan of that. The game has so much structure. I get it. The game is fast. Coaches get carried away with structure. They get carried away. And if they get too carried away, and I think that's been a problem for the Finns all these years. They're always structure, right? They look like they've been playing the trap for 30 years and nothing much changes. I think it's been to their detriment because they've had skilled guys, right? Some of the best, most skilled players have been Finns. Mm-hmm. They don't let them run at the right time. That's my opinion. And so that's why I picked some of the guys that I picked. And when the game is on the line, or even it could be early in the second period, and you just realize this is going nowhere. This is no good. We're getting run over, whatever. That's when, especially the D-men, because the game is in front of them. The forwards are in it, especially in today's game with the structure. They are in the neutral zone. They are trying to find space. They're trying to get passes from their D-men, all that. So I use the term of they're in it, but the defensemen are back here and they have everything in front. So they can see things and do things coming from the backside. That's why Larry Robinson, Ray Bourque, Paul Coffey, on to this generation, the guys that we just mentioned, they're the ones that can really change the game. Let them run and see what happens. That's the way I look at the game. And if you don't, I think you're wrong as a coach.
Well, speaking of coaching, Brian, John Cooper has a Calder Cup to his belt. He's got 2 Stanley Cups. He won the 4 Nations. But what would it mean for him in his coaching career to be able to lead Canada to gold?
Well, I think we already know that. He's won at every level he's ever coached at, every single level. Yeah. It's amazing. The guy, one of the most interesting things that he said prior to the 4 Nations, I think it was the very first day they got the team together. They had some kind of a dinner, and he sat off to the side at his table with the coaches, and he just watched. He watched to see who talked to who. He watched to see who sat down with whom and what happened. So he just sat there as a sociology professor and went, okay, yeah, okay, I see that. Okay. It helped him put lines together. That's brilliant stuff. That's good coaching before you even talk to them, before you even got on the ice, before you even talked about drills. That's good stuff. Like I admire things like that, because that's kind of I love that part of the game, along with, what I just said, the individual players. He's really good at that. Sure, he has structure, no doubt. And I think this year's Tampa Bay Lightning team and what we just talked about, the run that they've had right now with all the guys out, he knows structure, that's for sure. He also has tremendous swagger. I mean, he walks into the room and those guys know, that, okay, this is John Cooper, all right. He doesn't come in and just sort of make up the speech. Well, guys, no, he walks in and it's like this. Here we go. And that's important, especially in today's game. We had a lot of coaches back in the day who were the other guy who you could tell they were just making it up on the spot, So that goes a long way too. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to play. That's all laid out. Let's go. He knows how to control the bench. He knows when to shut up on the bench and listen to hear. I hear that from him from time to time with the Lightning. I'll start to say something on the bench, even if I'm, a little pissed off. And then somebody on the bench will say what I was just going to say. And I'm thinking, okay, good. That's when you back off. So that's experience. And he knows how to mix the sociology with the technique.
Brian, one quick follow-up. You have ties to both Winnipeg as your time here early when the Jets returned, and obviously the Montreal Canadiens. They're playing an outdoor game. Has Mike Keane given you a call to lace him up?
No, and that wouldn't happen. No, I'm not. This body, I don't bounce as well as I used to, and every day I get up, something else doesn't work, guys. So that ain't happening.
Brian Engblom, former Jets analyst, now with the Lightning, has been for many years. We appreciate catching up with you again. Thanks for the insight. Thanks for making time for us on this Saturday morning.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brian. Take care. There he goes, Brian Engblom. That's fun. That was a great conversation.
He's one of the best. He's one of the best guys. Just a great human being. One of the best analysts. A Winnipegger and a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. We mentioned he played for Canada at the 1981 Canada Cup. So, awesome to have Brian on for sure.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Good guest, Ezzy. I'll give you credit on that front. Of course, with no Jets games, there's no post-game shows for a while. We're going to take next Saturday off. So no show next Saturday. Go spend Valentine's Day with your loved ones, with your family. Find a loved one, whomever it might be. Go spend Valentine's Day with them. But we'll be back 2 Saturdays from now, February the 21st, to get you set for the return of the Winnipeg Jets. They'll be on the ice. I think they start skating again, Dave? The 17th, the 18th?
Yeah,
somewhere around
days.
there?
10 or 11 days.
Yeah, exactly right. So they got about a week or so before to get their legs back under them before they head back out and play. I'm going to call them meaningful NHL games, but they're probably not that meaningful at this point. Unfortunately, it might be.
They'll be important.
Their opponents.
It'll be important. We'll find out who's going to be on this team still in for the 5 games after that. So it'll be relevant, I think.
Right, exactly right. There'll be things of that nature that'll pique our interest as well. So that's just the schedule ahead for you, so you can structure your lives accordingly. Everybody,
we know where Ezzy's going to be
at the Festival de Voyage. Ezzy and Spency are already in line, I think.
Yeah.
I think you guys are heading right there in line.
Ezzy's a local celebrity. He doesn't have to wait in line, Drew. Come on.
Oh, he just jumps. Right. I forgot about that.
I'm a local man.
And Ezzy's huge at the Festival de Voyageur.
Local man drinks beer at Festival de Voyageur.
That's usually the way it's going to work for you. But yeah, that's always a fun time on the calendar. So, head out and do fun things like that. Do fun things, wherever you might do them, but do them safely. That's all we ask of you. The other thing we ask of you is to smash the like button if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on. And, of course, be sure to join us 2 weeks from now, the 21st of February, for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Yes, David?
Remember, just because the Jets are on hiatus for a little bit of time, and when the Jets come back and they're doing their little skates, we'll have that covered, of course, on our YouTube channel on illegalcurve.com. But as you know, the Manitoba Moose are still in action. 6 games, 5 games now because they played yesterday in Texas. So we'll have tickets to give away next week. So I won't be doing it on the air, but stay tuned to our social media and you can get tickets to see the remaining 4. I think they're playing Calgary next weekend. So a couple games against Calgary and then maybe Iowa, I think, is the series after that. So we'll have tickets to give away in that regard. Moose.
Come on, Dave, are you teasing here? Do you want a Manuk Moose minute or is it?
No,
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying yes.
On your antlers, it's time for the Manuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
This seems unnecessary, but go ahead.
I'll do a quick.
Wow, Drew's saying a Manuk Moose minute unnecessary.
Well, I'm pretty sure Drew says that every time that we do a Manuk Moose minute, so that's fine. That's not a big deal, especially unless it's a Mindell Moose minute. Then it's very relevant. All we know is that Elias Salamonson and Isaac Phillips Ezzy both were sent down, so they played in the lineup. Dawson Barteau, Dylan Anhorn came out. Otherwise, the forwards stayed the same. No Walker Dewar. He still remains out with a lower body injury. He's missed 4 straight games. So Flow Hockey, unfortunately, was having a bit of a situation. They didn't have the first period up. So we weren't able, I was listening old school. I was listening on the radio to Daniel Fink's call on 680 CJOB. So I wasn't
Dave, are you saying that it's been low flow?
Flow Hockey was definitely a little low flow yesterday. It was definitely not working well yesterday. So you're good on that one.
Come on, Drew, you like that one.
I mean, you honestly used to be funny. That's the problem that I see, is that there was a time where you were actually comical, and now you're pulling out things of that nature, and it's just not doing it for me.
Okay. Well, the Moose.
My feelings are so hurt right now.
I will say this. The Moose took a penalty. Nikita Chibrikov, 6 seconds into the period. He also took one 8 seconds into the period. They took a lot of high sticking. I think they took 4 high sticking penalties, one of which was a double minor. So they had to kill 5 penalties of the high sticking nature, as well as a cross check. I think they killed 6 in total yesterday. Their PK is fantastic. They're the second best road PK at about 88%. So they've been very good on the penalty kill. They're overall, I think they're 6 overall. But the fact is that the Moose gave up 2 goals, which I didn't see because we didn't have access to it. So I had to listen to Daniel make the call in 36 seconds. They only gave up 3 shots in the first period, 2 of which ended up being goals. So that was unfortunate. They didn't give up a goal for the rest of the game. They didn't give up a shot pretty much for the rest of the game. I don't think they gave up any shots on the PK, but unfortunately for them, they weren't able. Talking about Brad Lambert, he had, I mean, on one hand, you're happy that he's getting these chances. He probably had 4 grade A chances in the game, so that's good, but he didn't bury any of them. So that's bad. Not great situation for Lambert, but Mason Shaw scored with just over 2 minutes to go. So the Moose had a chance. And like I said, Brad Lambert, within the final minute, had a chance. It was about 54 seconds to go and then 36 seconds to go to tie the game. He was unable to do so. It was a battle of win streaks. Texas came in having won 5 in a row. The Moose came in having won 3, but only one team could win. It was the Texas Stars. They won 2-1. There'll be a rematch tonight in Texas, in Cedar Park, where we know at least one Jets/Moose fan who was in attendance at the building, but we'll see if they get Walker Dewar back, because he is on the road trip as far as I know. And that game will be the last one. Then they go on the HL All-Star break. Thomas Milic gets to go to the beautiful locale of Rockford, Illinois this week. I think it's Monday and Tuesday.
It's only one flight, so that's easy enough.
Yeah, that's true. And then the Moose will be back in town. We'll have coverage of that Wednesday and Thursday as they lead up to the games against Calgary next weekend.
There you go. The Manuk Moose Minute. I couldn't deprive the audience, or I probably could have, but Ezzy didn't want to deprive the audience, and Dave didn't want to deprive the audience either. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this morning. Big thanks to our sponsors. Play Now, they're the title sponsor. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. Kristen Toomey at Rumors tonight. Ryan Belleville, TJ Miller. They're all upcoming at Rumors as well. Get your tickets, rumorscomedyclub.com. Holt Dental, City Place, Wheatland Hockey, and, of course, our friends at Boston Pizza. Thanks to all of them for their support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Have a good weekend, everybody. Have a good couple weeks. Whatever you're going to do it safely. Do it with family. Do it with your loved ones. Enjoy yourself. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks' time, February the 21st, but keep it locked to illegalcurve.com and our YouTube channel for any news between now and, of course, 2 weeks from today. Smash the like button on your way out. For Dave Manuk, for Ezra Ginsburg.
Oh, happy birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Don Cherry.
That was a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, but it was, I mean, Don Cherry's in his 90s, so I mean, let's wish Don Cherry a happy birthday.
Sure, let's wish Don Cherry a happy birthday. And maybe when we come back in 2 weeks' time, I'll tell you the story about me being at the premiere of Rock'em Sock'em, both 1 and 2. With
that might be worth overtime, for God's sakes.
It's not.
Was the Mongolian media there as well?
The Mongolian media were not there, as far as I know. At least they weren't there. In any event, folks, have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good couple weeks. We'll see you again on the 21st. For Dave Manuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mindell. If it's Saturday, it's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.